Tonight, now it's the Corolla. The U.S. government opens an investigation of power steering problems, but Toyota's president decides he's steering clear of Congress. I'm Katie Couric. Also tonight, those Americans charged with kidnapping in Haiti. A judge decides to release most of them, but not their leader. The stimulus package 1 year later, did it deliver what was promised? We'll have a reality check. And the star-crossed Winter Olympics. It's been one glitch after another.
From CBS News World Headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Good evening, everyone. Toyota seems to be stuck on a highway of headaches and just can't find an off-ramp. Another car is now under investigation. This time it's the Corolla, the fourth most popular car in America. Nearly 300,000 of them were sold here last year. But some owners are complaining about power steering problems. And CBS News has learned federal safety regulators have opened an investigation of nearly 500,000 2009 and 10 models. So national correspondent Dean Reynolds tells us another Toyota recall could be right around the corner.
If there is a recall of Toyota's popular Corolla for steering problems, it would lengthen the traffic jam of some 8 million other Toyota vehicles still bound for the shop with brake and gas pedal issues. There have been more than 160 complaints to the government from Corolla owners about the steering's responsiveness. But the company said it's unclear if it's a safety issue, so no formal recall yet. But company president Akio Toyoda's rejection of a request for a face-to-face accounting to Congress next week raised questions about his and his company's judgment. A top aide will go in his place.
Anybody but Mr. Toyoda going to Washington is like sending the vice president when there's a huge disaster someplace.
At the Transportation Department, some 34 reported deaths so far have been attributed to sudden unintended acceleration in Toyotas.
I think that Toyota knew that it had a problem, and it did everything it could to discourage the Department of Transportation from requiring a recall.
Now the department wants Toyota documents involving how and when it knew of its vehicle's problems, holding out a threat of a $16 million fine. Toyota has made repeated apologies.
We have a fix for our recalls.
But useful information for customers on what went wrong has been hard to come by.
It's very concerning. I think they should have been more forthcoming if they did have problems.
Not everyone's on Toyota's case, though. Governors with Toyota plants in their states have now taken up the company's cause, suggesting the federal government, which owns 60% of General Motors, by the way, may have an ulterior motive. Indiana has 2 Toyota plants employing 5,300 workers.
The government went in the car business, and here they are beating up on one of their direct competitors.
But it's pretty clear Toyota has given its critics plenty of ammunition. Katie?
All right, Dean Reynolds in Chicago tonight. Dean, thank you. While Toyota dealers have been working round the clock to repair recalled cars, Nancy Cordes tells us the competition has been busy as well, selling cars.
Auto dealers across the country say Toyota's loss has been their gain. In New Jersey.
Since it's been announced, every day has been good here on the lot.
In Wisconsin.
There's a lot of extra incentives out there for people who want to take advantage of the situation.
And in Iowa.
It's been a great opportunity for Ford.
How great? Ford's January sales were up 25% from last year. GM 14% and Nissan 16%, while Toyota plunged nearly 16%. Chrysler is now offering a $1,000 incentive to owners who trade in certain recalled Toyota models for new Chryslers, Dodges, or Jeeps. GM, Hyundai, and Ford have similar $1,000 deals.
You know, these days it's a bit a wide open field for brands to capture new customers.
Crisis management expert Gene Grabowski says Toyota's early communication strategy didn't help.
I think that there was a concern for secrecy and privacy, and I think that was probably as much of a cultural difference with Japan and the United States and North America as anything else.
Toyota's new ad campaign, he says, is a step in the right direction.
In recent days, our company hasn't been living up to the standards that you've come to expect from us.
So how long will it take Toyota to recover from this?
Sometimes companies with the resources of a Toyota can bounce back in 6 months to a year.
But in this case, he predicts it will take much longer because these aren't $10 over-the-counter products we're talking about. They're $20,000 vehicles, and it takes a lot of consumer confidence to part with that kind of money. Nancy Cordes, CBS News, Washington.
Meanwhile, there's breaking news tonight from Haiti. 8 of the 10 Americans charged with kidnapping there have been released from jail and are believed to be on their way home. 2 others, including the group's leader, will remain in custody for further questioning. Kelly Kobiella in Miami is following these latest developments. Kelly?
Katie, good evening. The Haitian judge signed the release order late this afternoon, and just after 6 o'clock Eastern time, those 8 American missionaries were loaded into a van at the jail in Port-au-Prince and taken directly to the airport. The only condition of their release is that they agree to come back to Haiti for questioning if asked. Now, all 10 were arrested almost 3 weeks ago, January 29th, after trying to take 33 children, Haitian children, across the border to the Dominican Republic. Their leader, Laura Silsby, insisted that most of these children were either orphaned or abandoned. In fact, several of the parents told CBS News that they handed over their children on the promise of a better life. Those parents apparently also told the investigating judge that they willingly gave up their children, and that was a factor in releasing those 8 missionaries. However, he says he still wants to hold on to the leader, Laura Silsby, and another woman, Carissa Coulter, for more questioning. Katie?
And Kelly, what does the judge want to ask them about, and does this mean they could actually still face charges?
It's a possibility, Katie. He primarily wants to ask them about a previous trip to Haiti. Apparently, both women had been in the country before, and he wants to know why. However, the lawyer has said today that this means relatively little, and both will soon be coming home as well. Katie?
All right, Kelly Kobiella. Kelly, thanks so much for that update. Now turning to the economy, and a gloomy prediction today from the Federal Reserve. Unemployment, now at 9.7%, will stay high for the foreseeable future, as high as 8.5% next year, and perhaps dropping to 6.6% the following year. 1 year ago today, President Obama signed a law he said would help put Americans back to work. The price tag for the so-called stimulus bill was $787 billion. So far, nearly $300 billion of that has been spent. But did the stimulus do the job? Our chief White House correspondent Chip Reed has tonight's reality check.
The Obama administration claims that in 1 year, the stimulus program has saved or created about 2 million jobs. This highway paving equipment company in California canceled plans to lay off 40 workers because of demand created by stimulus projects.
You can sleep better at night knowing that you can get up and come to work and not have to go out and try to find a job.
In Washington, D.C., about 20 people are working on this road project. Manager Matthew Johns calls the stimulus a lifesaver.
So it's certainly possible that you and these guys would be without work right now if it weren't for the stimulus package. Is it?
Absolutely.
Tell me, where could you be now?
Home, looking for jobs, sending out resumes, interviewing.
The president says hundreds of thousands of state employees are also working today because of stimulus money.
Relief that has allowed 300,000 teachers and education workers to keep their jobs, as well as tens of thousands of cops and firefighters and first responders.
Even many independent economists put the number of jobs saved or created at about 1.8 million. But to the great frustration of the White House, most Americans simply refuse to believe it. In a recent CBS News New York Times poll, a mere 6% said the stimulus has created jobs. 41% said it will create jobs. 48% said it will never create jobs. That skepticism due in part to a relentless campaign by Republicans who say the stimulus is a bloated, big government failure.
The American people are still asking the question, where are the jobs?
That's a question people at this New York unemployment agency are also asking.
I honestly don't know where they put that money.
It hasn't really done much for me.
In the year since the stimulus was signed into law, the economy has lost 3.2 million jobs, and the unemployment rate has soared from 8.2 to 9.7%.
The president's stimulus package was a terrible bargain for the American people. He spent far too much money for the number of jobs he got.
The White House admits they haven't been tough enough in responding to critics of the stimulus, so they've started an aggressive new campaign, calling out dozens of Republicans they say are hypocrites. Republicans who voted against the stimulus but then went home and attended ribbon-cutting ceremonies for projects in their states that create jobs. Katie?
Chip Reed reporting from the White House with a reality check tonight. Chip, thank you. And in other news, to golf now, Tiger Woods is breaking his silence about his troubled personal life as well as his future. Woods quit golf in December to work on his marriage after admitting to a series of affairs. CBS News has learned he will not announce a date for his return to golf, but this Friday at a golf club in Florida, he plans to apologize publicly to his friends and colleagues. A statement from his agent today says, while Tiger feels what happened is fundamentally a matter between he and his wife, he also recognizes that he has hurt a lot of other people. He wants to begin the process of making amends. And coming up next here on the CBS Evening News, we're living longer, taking more medicine, and having more procedures. But are we any healthier? The results are in from our annual health checkup, and there's some good news. The CDC said today we're living longer. Since 1990, average life expectancy in this country has increased more than 2 years. Even so, some are questioning whether we're taking too much medicine and having too many tests for our own good. Dr. John LaPook has tonight's Eye on Your Health.
Americans are taking more pills.
Well, it's keeping me alive.
Having more procedures.
You know, a lot of people have had lots of things replaced. Shoulder, knee, hip.
And getting more scans.
My cardiologist recommended that I do the CT scan.
Than ever before. But is more health care making us healthier?
More is not always better. These technologies offer benefit, but too much of them can certainly lead to harm.
Dr. Elliot Fisher is referring to the use of CAT scans, PET scans, and MRI. Imaging tests that more than tripled in 10 years. The benefit? Earlier diagnoses. The problem? An estimated 35% of scans are unnecessary, often leading to radiation exposure and more tests.
If I were a patient, I'd ask 2 questions. Help me understand the risks and benefits of these procedures. And by the way, doctor, do you have a financial interest in ordering this particular test?
Prescription drug use has also exploded. The percentage of people taking 3 or more medications has almost doubled, and that has benefits and risks. For example, while the number of adults taking cholesterol-lowering statins has jumped tenfold, a benefit may be the death rate from heart disease has plunged. But experts warn popping pills can't replace healthy habits.
It's easy and attractive to take a pill. Often they make a big difference, but they're never enough. We have to learn how to be more physically active. We have to learn how to eat less and eat more healthy food.
Now that Americans are living into their late 70s, more are replacing worn-out parts. In the last 10 years, the number of people receiving a knee replacement increased 70%. Experts say that procedures like knee and hip replacements are overdone. It's clear that technology has its benefits, but it's also clear that throwing money at pills and procedures can't buy good health.
Our data would suggest that we're not getting our money's worth.
To help patients get their money's worth, doctors need to clearly explain the pros and the cons of everything they suggest. And that includes helping you understand that sometimes the best option is doing nothing at all. Katie?
Instead of overkill. John LaFook. John, thanks so much. When we return, America's top dog struts her stuff. Tragedy today in Northern California. All 3 people aboard a small plane were killed when it crashed into a residential neighborhood in East Palo Alto. The Cessna 310 hit power lines in heavy fog and broke apart just after takeoff. Debris hit 3 homes and a daycare center, but no one on the ground was hurt. Up in orbit today, talk about a room with a view. The astronauts aboard the International Space Station opened the shutters on that new addition. It has an observation deck with 7 windows that provide breathtaking views of Earth 220 miles below, as well as outer space. And now to a dog that's on top of the world. Sadie the Scotty spent today basking in glory here in New York City after winning the Westminster Dog Show at Madison Square Garden. For dog lovers, there's nothing like Westminster. 2,500 competitors from 173 breeds, like Chanel, the Whippet, CJ, the Doberman. But there can only be one top dog.
Best in show at the 134th Westminster Kennel Club is going to be the Scottish Terrier.
Sadie the Scotty.
It's her biggest win yet. At 4 years old, Sadie's already won 112 titles. She's the first Triple Crown winner, having won the National Dog Show in November and the American Kennel Club show a month later. And kept her poise even as animal rights protesters tried to crash the party before they were arrested. Trophies and ribbons are nice, but for Sadie, the real reward, chicken, her favorite treat. Congratulations, Sadie. And coming up next, we take you to the same cafe, serving up something very different. Finally tonight, when people start a business, the idea is, of course, to make money. But that's not at all what a Denver couple had in mind when they opened a restaurant. Barry Peterson tells us their goal was to serve up healthy helpings of the American spirit.
There is a place where Laura from the Cupcake Shop
We like to support the local businesses.
and college student Sean, who lives in his car,
I just pay with whatever cash I happen to have.
and Lisa, homeless and looking for work, can meet for lunch.
Would you have had a meal today if it hadn't been for this place?
No, probably not.
It's called The Same Cafe, a name that is also its mission, so all may eat.
The coffee, you help yourself. It's right down there.
The rules are a little different. Pick what you want from the menu.
Couscous.
Pay what you can into the donation box.
And if you don't have money, you can always volunteer. Just step into the kitchen and work for your meal.
It's a great deal. At least it makes you feel like you're doing something. You're paying your own way, you know?
No one's wearing a name tag that says, I'm working for my food.
Libby and Brad Berkey combined their life savings with a desire to help.
Really?
Yes, sir.
And opened The Same Cafe.
In the beginning, if we fed one person who needed it, it was worth it for us.
Well-balanced meals come with a side of pride from this former teacher.
A lot of people have jobs to make a living, and we feel like we have this job to make a life.
Should I cut them smaller, Norma? Or is this okay?
With help from volunteers, they've served 35,000 meals in more than 3 years.
It gives people a lot of hope that they're respected someplace in life, and this is it.
Fundraising and grants supplement the donations. Today's take was all of $287.23.
How do you measure what you've done with your day? Because it certainly isn't in dollars and cents.
No, definitely not in dollars and cents. I think it's in people who, hug me on the way out the door.
And somehow they make enough, serve enough to keep the restaurant and their hearts
See you next week.
open. Barry Peterson, CBS News, Denver.
What a wonderful place. And if you know someone who embodies the American spirit, go to cbsnews.com and please let us know. Meanwhile, that is the CBS Evening News for tonight. I'm Katie Couric. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.